Hi everyone, and welcome to my talk, How to Use Comedy as a Tool for World Building. Now, I know you have a couple of questions. Number one, what the hell does that mean? Number two, is this going to take long? And perhaps the most pressing question of all, who the hell are you? This part is ruined because she did it for me. My name is Ozan. I'm a writer, project leader, and reluctant animator at Perfectly Paranormal. I started out as an animator, moved on to new things. The anime thing just stuck. Perfectly Paranormal, we're a game studio based in Hamar. We worked on 2 games, Manual Samuel and Helheim Hassel. They are the funniest games ever by Manual Samuel and Helheim Hassel. I also wrote the dialogue for a game called My Child Lebensborn. That's a sad game. That's not the funniest game ever. By My Child Lebensborn. I also have a YouTube channel not related to any of this. It's called The Ozan Show. By The Ozan Show. Ozan, are you going to plug things all day, or are you actually going to get on to your talk? I'm sorry, Animated Me, I'm trying. But I'm nervous, Animated Me, and when I get nervous, I plug stuff. Follow me on Instagram. When they came to me and asked me if I can have what did I write? Talk about comedy in game? I said sure, but I wasn't sure. Follow me on Twitter. Because in order to tell you how to write comedy, I have to tell you how to write comedy in order to tell you how you can use it as a tool for world building. But the problem with that is that comedy is subjective. No matter what I tell you, somebody somewhere is going to disagree. Visit my merch store. So what can I do then? All I can do is to explain to you how we work with comedy, and maybe, just maybe, you might learn something. In order to do that, I just want to talk a little bit more about our games, because I'm going to use examples from our games quite a lot. Our first game, Manual Samuel, is a game about this rich guy. Wait, I have a laser. About this rich guy, Sam, who has done nothing on his own in his entire life, and then at the beginning of the game, he dies, and then he does a deal with death that if he can do everything on his own, for 24 hours, he'll get his life back. But that also includes his bodily functions. So you have to breathe, blink, walk around, and adjust your spine, do all these things manually, while a narrative adventure of biblical proportions unfold, involving driving to work, and robot uprisings, and Satan. Our next game was called Helheim Hassel. That one is about a Viking boy who dies again in the first level, and then he gets resurrected, and he's trying to go to Helheim, and he has to use his limbs in order to solve puzzles, so he can detach and attach his limbs at will to solve puzzles. Also a game about body parts. But we don't sit at Hamar like a bunch of creepy dudes going, let's make a bunch of games about body parts. That's going to be great. We just did that for this one because we were like, all right, let's make a game that is similar but also completely different so that people will recognize it. I can prove it. Our next game is called The Holy Gosh Darn. And that's just a game about angels. How nice. That's great. Are you going to talk about your games all day or something, or are you going to get to the point? Shut up, Animated Me. You're not even animated. And whose fault is that? You know I hate animating you. Stupid Animated Me. How to tell if something is funny. That's what this part is called. A couple of summers ago, I was hired by a prestigious game company to come in and write some funny dialogue for their game. So there I was, I came in there and I wrote my silly little words. And then one day at lunch, somebody came up to me and asked, "Hey, Ozan, I just wrote some of the dialogue you wrote for our game, and I must say, that was pretty funny. What is your process? How do you do it?" And I'll never forget what I said. I said, another opportunity to show how wise and skilled I am, gone. That night I lay awake at night. That's a bed. And I was like, man, what did I mean by that? What does that even mean? And I realized I did it on purpose. I used the food in my mouth as a cover because, again, I didn't know what the freak to say. Comedy is subjective, right? So I just laid there and I started talking about the universe and, life and how we're just specks of dust, not unique or cool in any way. And then I was like, wait a minute, that's the answer. The answer is, what makes stuff funny, is that you're not unique. Okay, that's kind of harsh, that's bleak, that's just something animated Ozan would say, and animated Ozan is a dick, so let's just try to say it in a nicer way. How about humans are similar? Yay! That's nice, but what does that mean? How does that make something funny? Well, let me ask you this. Have you said something like this before? Am I the only one that likes soggy cereal? Am I the only one who likes Turkish beans? People that walk around like that? Like, no, of course not. That would be crazy if you were the only one who did that. In the whole world, imagine if there was only one person who liked soggy cereal. That's never the case. No matter what you do that you think is weird, just go into Google, write, am I the only one, your weird thing, and Google will probably auto-complete it for you. Because nobody's that unique. And that means if you write a joke that you genuinely think yourself is funny, then somebody somewhere is also going to think that. 100% of the time. But if you write a joke for joke's sake, you're like, oh, I should write a joke right now for this part. I don't know if this is funny. Well, then there's no guarantee that it's actually funny. There's no guarantee that somebody might find it funny. If you write an unfunny joke, you can gamble. Maybe somebody will think it's funny, but there's no guarantee for that. There is a guarantee if you think it's funny yourself. Then I threw that. That's the Ozan guarantee. But being funny is also serious business. You can't just write anything that you think is funny, present it, and then your job's done. Let's see. See if you recognize this. You tell somebody a funny joke, and then they go, I have to admit that under the circumstances, that might have been kind of funny. Like, why do people do that? They're so reluctant for laughing. It's like they're at court. They have to admit that something is funny. All right. So sometimes people go, oh, you got me. That was funny. Like, what? I'm not trying to get anyone, dude. I'm just writing some jokes, and people are like reluctantly. So either people love not finding something funny. You try to tell somebody something funny, and all of a sudden people are Batman. Like, that was kind of funny, but you're not supposed to see me smile. I have an image to maintain. So the point is, whatever I am saying on this, so you can see that that's slide I made pretty late. I was like, I don't know what's going on here. Where am I? Oh, wow, what a disaster this is. Right. The point is, I don't know what the point is. It's hard to write jokes. That's the point. Get to the point, Ozan. Shut up, animated me. Nobody likes you. Get out of here. Here's my favorite joke. 2 fishes are in a tank. Then one of them says to the other, how do we drive this thing? Oh, snap! They're in a battle tank. They're not in a fish tank at all. What? Such a good joke. Look, it goes, 2 fishes are inside a tank. You're thinking about a bunch of things now. You're just picturing 2 fishes inside a tank. And then they start speaking, first of all. What? That's hilarious on its own. And then suddenly, they just shatter the thing you're thinking about. The image you had in your brain is gone. They're like, wait a minute, how do we drive this thing? Oh man, they're in a battle tank. It's great, I love that joke. Let's see, where did I put it? Okay. Here's a can of Turkish beans. Okay, I got a few laughs. I mean, whatever. So, that was unexpected. Kind of like the fish joke. Is something funny equals something unexpected? Is that what makes something funny? Maybe. Certainly works for the fish joke. 2 fishes are inside a tank. You're seeing a tank in your head. Then one of them says to the other, how do we drive this thing? What? Suddenly it's about 2 fishes enlisted in some crazy fish war. And then they have to infiltrate the enemy lines inside a tank, and they don't even know how to drive it? Dude, that's certainly unexpected. But is everything unexpected funny, like those beans? Why did the chicken cross the road? Because jam blue monkey 7. That's just a bunch of random words. That doesn't work. It's not funny at all. That sucks. I saw some of you laugh. Stop it. It's not funny. Come on. You're ruining my talk. Okay? But Ozan, if random things aren't funny, then that's pretty random. 2 fishes inside a tank, that's random as hell. But it's not that random, because I say right at the setup there that they're inside a tank. It's not random at all. And the only animal that can live in a tank are fishes, unless you talk about like a terrarium or something, but that's too complicated. And you want to write simple jokes that people can understand. So, if you come up with some sort of punchline, then it's our job as comedy writers to make a good setup for it so that it doesn't seem random. You can come up with something random that you think is funny, and then your job is to try to convince the viewer or the player or whoever that it wasn't random, in fact. It was right in front of their face all along. So, I hate random humor. That doesn't make sense. I remember when I was in high school, it was a thing. Everybody kept telling these random jokes that made no sense, and I hated it. And the main reason why I hate random jokes is because sometimes I get accused of telling them or making them. And that upsets me, because that means I didn't do a good job on the setup part of the joke, so people go, that was pretty random that he did that. And I'm like, no, we didn't. Damn it. Also, I hate the cutaway gags on Family Guy. Hate them. Ugh. They're so random, you know, and I don't like that. I always try to unrandom my jokes. Okay, so where do we come up with these jokes then, and why do we use them? At Perfectly Paranormal, or at least me as a writer, I use them almost strictly as a tool. It's not like I sit down and I'm like, I'm on a timer, and I'm like, all right, it's been 10 minutes now since something funny happened, so time to write down another joke. I need some jokes here, come on, jokes. I want pictures of Spider-Man and jokes. We don't work like that. I mean, you can do it with dialogue. If it's like a long, prolonged cutscene or whatever, and people are talking, I'm sure you can go like, all right, put a joke in there, but you might end up making a bunch of jokes you don't think are funny yourself, like we discussed earlier. But I guess you can do it with dialogue, but how do you come up with funny characters or funny situations or funny world building? I know that some writers, they sit down and they predetermine these things. They're like, oh, I want to make a world, and then in this world everybody walks backwards because that's funny, and like they write that down before they have written anything. They like come up with all this world building before it's necessary. The way we work is we only make jokes out of necessity, and and sometimes like, oh, it would be funny if this and that happened, but we use them as tools. And these necessities I'm talking about, they can be something like, I just love my laser. It can be introducing, I don't need to do this even. It can be introducing a gameplay mechanic. We can use comedy to steer the plot in the direction that we want. Or we can use comedy as a tool for maintaining the theme of whatever product we're making. Like if it's a Norse mythology thing, maybe I use a humor to remind people that it's a Norse mythology thing, that we don't drift off the theme too much. Ozan, what are you talking about? Shut up, animated me. But he does have a point. What am I talking about? So let's go and see some examples. Here's a character from Helheim. His name is Dancent. He's obsessed with levers. Which is funny, right? Why is he obsessed with levers? Like, how did we come up with that? Well, Helheim is a narrative adventure puzzle platforming game where you can detach and attach your limbs in order to solve puzzles. And there's a bunch of situations where you can't pull a lever. So we need to teach the player how to use a lever. And yes, we can do one of these. Press X to pull the lever. You need an arm though. You have to use an arm to pull the lever. Or have like a character going, hey, did you know? Did you know that you can pull a lever if you close it when you have an arm? We could do that, but instead, since this is a comedy game, we used comedy as a tool. So we introduced this character. He's obsessed with levers. It's funny because now he can explain to you exactly how a lever works, and you're good. Another example, Helheim is a narrative adventure game with puzzle platforming elements, meaning there's a bunch of narrative adventuring where you have to talk to a bunch of people, and there's also a bunch of puzzle platforming elements where you have to puzzle platform. And we didn't want it to be one of those games where you're like, in this segment, you're narrative adventuring, and in this segment, it's puzzle platforming, and then it's narrative adventuring, and then it's puzzle platforming. We wanted to combine them sometimes. So now we are in a situation where I have to come up with something where I can combine narrative adventure and puzzle platforming elements. Meaning, I want the part where you talk to somebody, and then depending on what you say to them, somewhere the puzzle platforming part like gets affected. That's what we wanted to do. So luckily, it's a comedy game, and we can use comedy to our advantage. We made this, the part where you talk to the dragon, and he eats your leg. And then, inside him, he has an organ called the insult flimmer. So whenever you insult him, his insult flimmer starts moving. So you have to change to your head, insult him, and then change back to your leg, and then platform on. He also has something called a laughter gland. So there you can choose what to say to him, and whenever you tell him a joke, his laughter gland inflates so that you can jump on it and bounce. So that's an example of using comedy as a tool for introducing gameplay mechanics. So I didn't just come to work that day and go, man, you know what would be funny if I just made up a bunch of dragon organs? I don't know, maybe an insult flimmer, we'll just shoehorn that in somewhere. No, we were like, okay, you have to say something. What are the things you can say to someone? and how is that supposed to change like the things inside him. So we specifically used comedy to come up with that specific thing, instead of just coming up with a bunch of funny random things at random, which I hate. You can also use comedy as a device to move along the plot. For example, when we introduced death in Manuel Samuel, we knew that we wanted him to be like a modern version of death, like he has all those weird hoodies and caps and stuff on. And then we decided that we wanted him to be a skater, right? And he skates in the background. Now, he skates in the background a lot, and he's trying to do all these kickflips, and he can't do it. And the start of the game, he does a deal with Sam, where he like scams Sam for his soul. He's scamming him for his soul, and he resurrects him, and he gives him this man. He has to live manually. The point of that is that he wants Sam to die fast so that he can take his soul. And soul is money in hell. But we were like, okay, but why does he need souls? What is he saving up to? And that's why we came up with him not being able to do a kickflip, because he's trying to save up to a skateboard that's super easy to do kickflips with. So that too wasn't that random. We were just like, okay, but if he looks like this, what can he need money for? And all right, maybe it's a skateboard. Okay, why that particular skateboard? All right, maybe it's easy to do kickflips with that because he can't do kickflips. And then he's like in the background just trying to do kickflips all game. There's also, here's an example from Helheim Hassel. We had made everything we wanted to make, and then we knew how the game was going to end. But we had time and budget to do one more level in between how far we had come and the end of the game. And what we wanted to do was to have a part of the game where you can attach your body parts to props around the background. Like, say, something like furniture. We wanted him to put his legs maybe on a drawer and then walk around as that, or put his head on some sort of other furniture. Also, one thing we wanted to have in the game were draugs. We didn't have any draugs. We had a bunch of different Norse creatures, but we were like, it would be cool to have zombies in the game. So let's see. We want to have furniture-based gameplay, and we also need some draugs. Like that joke just writes itself. I didn't come up with it. That just our necessities writing jokes for us. Obviously, we have a level where draugs. Obviously, we came up with the fact that draugs are actually obsessed with furniture. So they hoard all this furniture. And that's what we mean with using comedy as a tool for world building. So now, if I ever make another game and then somehow they end up in a situation where they meet a draug, we already established that draugs just love furniture. And that I didn't come up with that randomly because I thought that was funny. It just purely came out of necessity. But the world is now built. All draugs in our universe are just obsessed with furniture. All right. This part is called the 10-hour setup. Ozan. Goblins obsessed with levers. Draugs hoarding furniture. Laughter glands. All this is starting to sound a bunch like Jam Blue Monkey. It's pretty random, isn't it? Well, so that's where we actually go to work. So the jokes write themselves, right? You need something. You use comedy as a necessity. You come up with a joke. You put it in, and then you go to work. Now it's your job to convince people that it's not random. It's exactly how it's supposed to be. So these are just some principles I made up. The 12, what was it called? I forgot my own thing. The 10-hour setup. This is the two fishes are in a tank part of the work process. And here's the rule I made up. The more far out your joke is, the more dumb and far-fetched it is, the longer you need to use to set it up, to mention it at some point. Why is there so much text there? What am I writing? Oh, yeah, okay, cool, yeah. So, in Helheim Hassle, we have a character. I'm not going to spoil. Well, it's a little bit spoiling, but whatever. We have this ghost character, okay? And this is a joke I came up with, and I wanted to have it in. Don't do as I do as I say. Yes, I came up with a random character, like a joke, just because I thought it was funny. I wanted a character we had, which is a ghost, to shapeshift into Tony Iommi, that's the guitarist of Black Sabbath, travel back in time, and actually form the band Black Sabbath. That happens at some point in our game. He's like, I'll go start Black Sabbath then, and then he turns into Tony Iommi, and it time travels back in time to start Black Sabbath. Now, that's very random. Like, what? Why did that happen? Unless we can help it. I actually like coming up with these specific weird jokes because it gives me a bunch of opportunity to world build. Because in order to make that dumb joke work, now the guy is gonna go, all right, well, he's a ghost, and he's like, I'm gonna shapeshift, then time travel and all these things. We need 10 hours establishing all that. First of all, we have to establish that ghosts are a creature that can shapeshift. So we introduced a bunch of ghosts during the game, and they all shapeshifted. Not because they needed to. All of this is just building up to that one dumb joke at the end. But they keep shapeshifting. They're like, oh, I'll just shapeshift. And that was only because of that joke. Also, the character that, it's a twist, right? He's like, ta-da, I'm actually Tony Iommi, or the guy dressing up as him. We have to establish that he's into music. He can't just randomly just blurt out, I'm gonna go start Black Sabbath now. You have to go like, oh yeah, of course he's gonna start Black Sabbath because he's been talking about music the whole game. Every time you meet him, he's like talking about his CD player or some tunes or music in some way or another. So that's good. That's a character trait that we needed to shoehorn in there in order for my dumb joke to work. And that's cool. It's not like I just wrote, yeah, I need to just include a character that's into music. That's going to be cool. No, we needed to have that because of that one joke. Also had to establish that ghosts can time travel. Now, at this point, I went a little bit meta because I was like, it's pretty funny that ghosts can do all these seemingly random things. So instead of establishing that, we actually avoided establishing it. And then the main character is like, okay, what? He can time travel too, because he keeps learning about ghosts. Oh, they can do this, they can do that, they can shapeshift. That's dumb. And then at the end, when he's like, all right, I'm going to head out now, I'm time traveling, he's like, what? He can time travel? And that became a punchline. But since that's a punchline, now we have to set up that also. So in the beginning of the game, he dies, right? He turns into this ghost, and then he gets resurrected. But at that part, when he's a ghost, he's like, man, I can't fly, I can't go through walls, I can't do anything as a ghost. It sucks. And then later, when he's not a ghost anymore, he learns that, oh, they can shapeshift, they can time travel all the time. So we wrote all that funny dialogue when he's a ghost. He's like, man, I'm disappointed in how limited my powers are. And again, that wasn't dialogue that I just boing came up with. That's just leading up to the stupid Black Sabbath joke and the fact that he's going to learn all these things later. So because of that one joke, we have a bunch of lore. We have all these things ghosts can do, and if I ever have, we actually use it in the Holy Gashtar now. Like, you meet some ghosts, and they can do all these things that we established in a different game. Didn't have to come up with it. Great. We have a bunch of running jokes now. We have character traits, because the guy has to listen to music. Running jokes, Björn, the main character, he keeps learning these new things about ghosts, and he gets increasingly annoyed that he didn't know about them when he was a ghost. Bunch of funny situations, a bunch of world building. Great. And then you have poor Dancent, right? He's just obsessed with levers. That's not that far out. That's like here in the far out meter. So we just put a bunch of levers behind him. That's his 10-hour setup. You just see him standing in front of a bunch of levers. So the more far out it is, the earlier do you need to start like talking about it, mentioning it, or not, I don't know, it's subjective. That's how I do it. And the less far out it is, you can spend less time trying to establish it. Now we know that we don't just write random funny things and shoehorn them in our game. We do them out of necessity. But what if I have to use comedy as a tool early in my game and come up with a bunch of far out crap, not 10 hours into the game, like 20 minutes into the game? What then? I don't have 10 hours. This is pretty early in the game. I don't have 10 hours to set up that dragons have laughter glands and insult flimmers. So it's early in the game. I haven't mentioned this at all. What do I do then? Well, then I came up with another principle called the triple down. Here's a blank slate. Anyway, so this is the 10-hour setup. Here's a joke, and there's a setup, right? But if the joke is here at the beginning of the game, then we just do the triple down, like as often as you can, just rest of the game, especially if it's like a crazy random thing like the insult flimmers and whatnot. You triple down on it, right? You insist that's normal. You're like, no, it's not random. Look, it's still happening around us. It's everywhere. So we made this character, and he has laughter glands, and the only reason he has that is because we wanted to have the gameplay where you talk to him and then you bounce on things. And then we're done with that. Like, you're never gonna step on another laughter gland the whole game. But later, you come to a dragon comedy club. It's called the laughter gland, because that's how things work in this world. Dragons have laughter glands. It's not random, that's just how it is. And then you go in, and there he is, having stand-up, and all these dragons, they're like laughing, and every time they laugh, they like complain. They're like, oh, my laughter gland is inflating. Because that's just how this world works. That's just how the dragons are. And all this, he even sings a song at some point. All of this we made just so people didn't finish the game and go, man, the thing about the laughter gland was kind of random, wasn't it? No, you're in on the joke now. And if I make a different game, not Helheim Hassle and not even a platformer, and you meet some sort of dragon in it, you better gosh darn know that I'm gonna mention his laughter glands at some point. Even here, there's like a dispenser that's laughter gland medicine, because they're at a comedy club and it keeps inflating, so they need to, medicinate. What do you want animated, Ozan? Nothing, I'm just hacking the mainframe. Okay, cool. And then you can combine all this stuff, right? Here's an example. Death. He's into skating. So that's kind of random, actually, that Death is randomly into skating, even though it's his character arc and all that stuff. So we triple down on it. He keeps doing these kickflips in the background, or he's trying. But he keeps doing it. He keeps trying to do kickflips, and he can't do it. And this goes on for so long at this point in the game that it kind of starts to morph into a setup. Like, I've tripled down on it so much that you start wondering, okay, but what's the point of all this? Like, okay, I get it, he's into skating and stuff, but is it gonna have like a point at some point? What's the punchline? Because it starts to turn into some sort of setup. And then we had to come up with that. I was like, okay, we need a point of all this happening. So later, at the end of the game, when spoiler, Sam fights the devil, Death comes in, does a kickflip, distracts Satan so that Sam can win the fight. Now that's suddenly a punchline. Hold on, Satan is into skating? He's like, holy feces, did Death just do a kickflip? Like, suddenly he cares? Well, I can't have that randomly Satan is into skating, so now that needs a 10-hour setup. So then we go back to the game and I write this dialogue. All this is connected. So we meet another character from hell, and Satan, no, Death, he starts talking about skating, and then she cares. She's like, oh, I'm into skating. And then they mention another character from hell, and like, oh, he's also into skating. So I established that everybody in hell is into skating. That's just how hell works in our universe. Skating is big there. And then fast forward 7 years later, and we introduce a whole different character from hell in a different game, and check out his shoes. He's into skating. It has nothing to do with the game that he's into skating, but we did all this. And, the setups are set, the triple downs are downed, the world is built, and the fun is had by going back and forth in this way. We have some time left, so let me just figure out what I'm talking about. Said that. Yeah, okay, cool. All right. Oh no, it's animated Ozan again. What do you want, animated Ozan? I have initiated a self-destruct sequence for this presentation. Oh no! That's bad. That makes me nervous. Check out my TikTok. Oh no, animated Ozan. Well, what do I do? I'm sure we can talk this out. Please don't destroy my presentation. All right, then riddle me this. Am I the only one who likes Turkish beans? $12 setup, baby! Thank you. That's the end. What do I go or?
Because we started quite late, we don't have much time for questions, but I think we can take one if you can see if anyone looks like they have the ultimate question.
All right, we have one time for one ultimate question.
That's a lot of pressure, isn't it?
I think they understood everything perfectly. Oh, we have a question, yes?
Those kind of setups between games, like with the skating shoes, for example, do you have a sense of how well those work? Do people get back to you and say, I noticed the skate shoes, that's the previous game?
Yeah, sometimes they do. But I'm not that upptatt with that. Sorry, Jesus. That's the first Norwegian word this whole presentation, by the way, so, But yeah, if they do, then that's fine, but I'm also I'm just happy that I have a bunch of stuff that I can put in that's not random, is there for a reason. And it's not that important if everybody's in on the joke. People who didn't play Manuel Samuel, they don't know why Famine is wearing skating shoes. But I know, and it's that's less work as well. We're all right, what should Famine wear? Well, first of all, he needs skating shoes. And then we can take it from there. So it also lessens the workload on whoever, a bunch of things. In that case, for the character artist, he didn't have to figure out the thing about the shoes. All right, well, that was the ultimate question. I'll take my beans and I'll go.